I'm leaving you and moving to Miami with my 20-year-old girlfriend. I've already emptied our joint account. My hands didn't shake as I read it. My voice didn't waver as I helped Mrs. Peterson pick out a scarf. The only sign that my husband of 12 years had just nuked our marriage via text was a slight tightening around my eyes. In that quiet, busy afternoon, as I rang up a sale and offered style advice, a single message transformed everything. 4 years our partnership had been the backbone of my life. A carefully built union of shared dreams, financial decisions, and whispered promises of forever. I had believed that every choice we made together was mutual, every hardship weathered hand in hand. And yet, in the blink of an eye, that entire foundation was shattered by a few terse lines on a phone screen. As I folded a scarf with a practiced smile, the sting of betrayal simmered beneath my calm exterior. I realized that while I had been busy cultivating beauty in my little boutique, curating clothes, nurturing friendships, and even mending broken hearts with a kind word, I had missed the subtle signs of a crumbling marriage. Now my husband's callous declaration arrived not in a quiet conversation over coffee, but in the form of a text message that emptied not only our bank account, but also the shared vision of our future. That afternoon, while Mrs. Peterson admired a vibrant scarf that would surely brighten her day, I began to sift through the fragments of our life together. Every memory, every promise, now felt tinted with the bitter aftertaste of betrayal. I didn't let anyone see the turmoil stirring inside me. Instead, I pressed on with the poise of someone who had faced heartbreak before, and knew that from ruin new strength could be forged. This was just the beginning. Unbeknownst to him, the man who thought he could escape without consequence was about to face a reckoning he never saw coming. My plan was already forming. I would turn this betrayal into my liberation, reclaiming every piece of my identity and transforming the pain into a powerful new chapter. I was ready to find the woman I was always meant to be, one who refused to be defined by someone else's selfish goodbye. And so, as the afternoon wore on and the boutique buzzed with its usual energy, I set in motion the steps that would lead me toward a future where I was in control. The text might have emptied our joint account, but it could never empty the well of resilience that lay within me. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as I absorbed every word of that devastating message. I resumed my work at the boutique, but the cold shock pulsed beneath my skin with every transaction I handled. Each smile I offered a customer was a mask. Inside, I was reeling from the betrayal. How could 12 years of shared memories, promises, and joint dreams be discarded so casually, reduced to a string of characters on a screen? I found myself repeatedly rereading the message, ensuring I hadn't misinterpreted a single word. Every time I scanned it, the sting was just as raw, if not worse, than the first time. The text wasn't just a declaration of divorce. It was a calculated blow that emptied our shared account and shattered the illusion of our partnership. While I assisted Mrs. Peterson in choosing the perfect scarf, my voice steady and my hands deftly wrapping fabric, I felt an internal storm raging. I recalled every quiet morning we spent planning our future, every small victory celebrated together, and all the hopes that we had built over a dozen years. In that instant, those cherished moments clashed violently with the cold, hard reality of his departure. Yet, amid the overwhelming shock, a subtle ember of resolve began to glow. The pain was undeniable, but I recognized that this was also the moment when everything would change. My husband's callous exit had robbed me of our shared life, but it could never strip away my own strength. Even as I maintained a composed exterior, a plan started to form. One that would turn this betrayal into the catalyst for reclaiming every part of my identity. Those few words, so blunt, so final, cut deeper than I ever imagined. I'd built my world around the promises we made together. Each morning, every shared dream, every whispered vow of everlasting love, now seemed like a cruel illusion. The text was cold and unfeeling, a digital dismissal of a 12-year commitment. I remembered all the times we'd sat side by side, planning our future, discussing finances as if they were a sacred trust. And in one careless moment he shattered it all. The message wasn't just a breakup. It was an act of profound betrayal. His choice to deliver such life-altering news via text, without a hint of compassion, felt like the ultimate dishonor. Even as I continued my work at the boutique, I felt an unyielding ache pulsing beneath my calm exterior. Each customer interaction was punctuated by memories of better days, now tarnished by the sting of his final words. I couldn't help but replay that message in my mind, each reading a painful reminder that the man I trusted had so easily discarded our life together. There was no dramatic outburst, no tearful confrontation in that moment, just a silent inner resolve hardening with every beat of my heart. The casual cruelty of his words revealed a truth I never wanted to face. All those years of shared laughter and quiet understanding were suddenly meaningless to him. And yet, beneath that raw, searing betrayal, something began to form. A small spark of determination. I knew then that I would not allow his callous exit to define me. Even as the pain threatened to overwhelm, I began to muster the strength to reclaim my life. I would transform this betrayal into a stepping stone toward a future where I was in control, where every shattered piece of our past would fuel my journey forward. With my plan firmly in place and every piece of evidence meticulously organized, I stepped into the next phase, the counterattack. I scheduled an in-depth meeting with my attorney, who pored over every document, from bank statements to text messages, confirming that his actions were not only a betrayal of our trust, but also a blatant violation of our financial agreement. In that meeting, my attorney outlined our strategy. We would file for divorce immediately, but more importantly, we would pursue legal action to recover the funds he had siphoned away. We prepared a detailed claim, itemizing each unauthorized transfer, and gathered affidavits from financial experts who could attest to the deliberate nature of his actions. Every page we signed felt like a reclaiming of power, a way to convert my pain into a tangible demand for justice. At the same time, I met with a financial advisor to ensure that I could safeguard whatever remained of my personal assets and to plan for rebuilding my financial future. Together, we set up new accounts and established stricter personal financial controls, so that even if he had managed to drain our joint account, my own financial identity would remain untouchable. Every phone call, every meeting, and every late-night session with my attorney deepened my resolve. The courtroom wasn't just a battleground. It was the stage where I would finally reclaim what was rightfully mine. With each step, I felt the sting of betrayal being replaced by a steely determination to not only secure justice, but to build a future that belonged solely to me. As the legal proceedings unfolded, I kept a record of every interaction, every unexpected twist, and every small victory in court. The process was grueling and at times emotionally exhausting, but it also became a testament to my resilience. I began to see this not merely as a fight over money, but as a profound reclamation of my life and my identity. The counterattack was in full swing, and every action I took was a clear message. I would not be the passive victim of a betrayal. I was fighting back through legal channels, financial safeguards, and a renewed sense of self-worth. Each step toward reclaiming my finances was also a step toward reclaiming the life I was meant to live, free from the shadows of his callous abandonment. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than I expected. After months of meticulous planning, legal battles, and quiet rebuilding, it was time to confront the man who had so callously dismantled our life together. I arranged a meeting at a neutral location, a small, understated cafe that neither of us frequented, knowing that a face-to-face conversation was inevitable if I wanted to reclaim my narrative. When he arrived, there was a noticeable tension in the air. Gone was the smug confidence he once carried. Instead, he appeared unsettled, as if he too sensed that the tables had turned. I sat down across from him, my expression steady and resolute, the evidence of his betrayal laid out in my mind like a roadmap to justice. Without a word, I slid a folder across the table. Inside were copies of bank statements, text messages, and detailed records of every unauthorized transfer, a testament to the systematic dismantling of our shared future. He glanced at the papers, his eyes narrowing in a mix of guilt and defiance. "I trusted you," I began, my voice low but unwavering. 12 years of a life built together, and you chose to end it with a text, emptying our account as if it were nothing more than a petty transaction. How do you justify that? For a moment, silence reigned. The weight of my words hung between us, each second stretching into an eternity. I wasn't here to hurl insults or seek revenge in anger. I was here to confront the reality of his choices, and to let him know that his actions would have consequences far beyond the empty bank account. "I'm not here to rehash our past," I continued, "but I am here to reclaim my life. I have the evidence, I have the legal support, and most importantly, I have the resolve to ensure that every bit of what we built is accounted for." Your decision to abandon our partnership doesn't erase the future I still have, one that I will build on my own, stronger than ever." He tried to interject, a feeble attempt to justify his actions, but I held up a hand. I wasn't interested in excuses. The showdown was not a public spectacle of anger, but a quiet, powerful assertion of my worth and autonomy. In that moment, I saw a flicker of regret in his eyes, a realization that he had underestimated the strength of the person he was leaving behind. As the meeting concluded, there was no dramatic explosion or tearful apologies, only the clear understanding that this confrontation marked the end of his control over our shared life. I had spoken my truth, laid bare the evidence, and set in motion the irreversible steps toward a future defined by my own choices. Walking out of that cafe, I felt a profound sense of relief. I had faced the betrayer head-on, and in doing so, reclaimed the power that had been so callously taken from me. The showdown wasn't about winning an argument. It was about taking back my life, piece by piece, and moving forward with a resolve that would not be broken. In the months that followed the confrontation, the weight of betrayal slowly lifted, replaced by the steady, empowering rhythm of rebuilding. The legal proceedings progressed, and bit by bit, I began to recover what had been so ruthlessly taken from me, both financially and emotionally. The verdict was not just a legal win. It was the definitive end of a chapter filled with deceit and heartbreak, and the beginning of a future that I was determined to shape on my own terms. I remember the day I received the final settlement check. It was a quiet afternoon in my newly restructured office at the boutique. As I held the check, I felt a profound mix of relief and triumph, an affirmation that I was finally free from the chains of betrayal. Every dollar reclaimed was a step back toward the independence I had always deserved. The resolution wasn't merely about money, though it helped restore a sense of security. It was about reclaiming my identity and rewriting my story. I began to embrace new opportunities, launching a fresh marketing campaign at the boutique, investing in professional development courses, and even reconnecting with friends and passions that had been sidelined for years. Each day became a canvas on which I painted a future defined by my choices, not by someone else's selfish departure. I found solace in the small victories, a successful business event, a kind note from a loyal customer, or even a quiet moment alone with a cup of coffee, reflecting on how far I'd come. My heart, once heavy with betrayal, now beat with renewed hope. I realized that my worth wasn't tied to the partnership I'd lost, but to the resilience and strength that had carried me through the darkest hours. Looking back, the journey from that cold text message to this moment of empowerment was transformative. I had learned that true strength lies in our ability to rise after being knocked down, to reclaim every part of our identity, and to forge a path that honors our intrinsic worth. Today I stand not as a victim of betrayal, but as a woman reborn, confident, independent, and ready to embrace the future with open arms. The scars remain, each one a reminder of lessons learned, but they are now symbols of resilience rather than marks of defeat. Later that afternoon, after the initial shock had begun to ebb into a numb sort of disbelief, I decided to check our joint bank account. I had always taken comfort in its balance, a symbol of our mutual trust and shared dreams. But when I logged in, my heart sank. Every digit had vanished. The account was empty. I stared at the screen, trying to comprehend the reality before me. It wasn't just the loss of money. It was the erasure of years of joint planning and careful saving. Every deposit we'd made together, every paycheck we'd contributed to building a future, had been wiped away with a few taps on his phone. The betrayal now had a cold, hard financial edge. I felt a chill run down my spine as I remembered our quiet conversations about saving for our dream home, for vacations, for emergencies, a safety net woven together with hope and mutual care. And now that safety net was nothing more than a memory drained away in an instant. The day at the boutique continued, but the emptiness in my account echoed in every transaction. I helped customers with practiced professionalism, yet inside, I was reeling from the sting of his calculated financial sabotage. Each sale, each customer smile, served as a jarring reminder of the security we once shared and the harsh reality of what had been stolen from me. There was a numbness to the moment. A moment when the betrayal transcended emotional hurt and became a tangible material loss. And while my hands remained steady as I wrapped up purchases, every fiber of my being was preparing for the next step. reclaiming control over my life and seeking justice for what had been taken from me. In the quiet aftermath of discovering the empty joint account, an intense mix of emotions began to surge within me. At first, there was a profound grief, a numbing sadness as I realized that not only had our shared dreams been shattered, but so had the tangible security that our financial future once promised. Every saved penny, every careful deposit, now lay in ruins, and with them, the trust that had been the foundation of our 12-year partnership. As the grief deepened, a slow-burning rage took its place. I found myself replaying memories of our happier times, each one now tinted with betrayal. How could he have been so callous? The anger was raw and unyielding, fueling a determination that was as unexpected as it was necessary. I knew that I couldn't let this heartbreak define me or dictate my future. Between transactions at the boutique and quiet moments alone after closing time, I allowed myself to feel every emotion in vivid detail, the sorrow, the fury, and even the creeping sense of resolve. Each tear that threatened to fall became a silent promise. I would reclaim my life and secure what was rightfully mine. The emotional roller coaster was brutal, but with every twist and turn, a new strength was being forged within me. A strength that would soon become the driving force behind my next steps toward justice and self-reclamation. After the shock had subsided and the immediate sting of betrayal still pulsing beneath my skin, I knew I needed answers. I began combing through our bank statements, every line item scrutinized like a potential clue. What started as a desperate search for understanding quickly evolved into a relentless investigation. At first, I noticed small discrepancies, minor transfers to accounts I'd never seen, expenses billed to unfamiliar names. My heart pounded as I pieced together the fragments of a hidden financial life. There it was, a series of transfers to an account with a cryptic name, one that had been steadily siphoning funds for months. Each transaction was a deliberate act, each withdrawal a calculated move in a game I'd never been invited to play. I reached out to a trusted friend who worked in finance, and together we dissected every record. The evidence was undeniable. My husband had orchestrated a covert operation, funneling money into a separate account without my knowledge. What was once our joint security had been slowly drained, not by a spur-of-the-moment impulse, but by a meticulously planned betrayal. With every hidden truth I uncovered, the reality of his double life grew clearer. The man I thought I knew had been living behind a facade, his actions meticulously designed to erase the foundation of our shared dreams. In that moment, amidst the cold, hard numbers and unauthorized transfers, a spark of determination ignited within me. I vowed that I would reclaim not only what had been stolen, but also the life I was meant to live. A life built on transparency, strength, and my own unwavering resolve. In the wake of betrayal and the cold clarity of those hidden transactions, I realized that wallowing in despair wouldn't rebuild my life. I needed a plan, a roadmap to reclaim not only my financial security, but also my sense of self. With the evidence of his covert moves firmly in hand, I resolved to transform my pain into power. Late into the night, after the boutique had quieted and the world outside had grown still, I began outlining my next steps. First, I reached out to a trusted attorney known for handling complex financial disputes. Over a series of late-night calls, we reviewed every document, every transfer that traced the draining of our joint account. It became clear that his actions were not spur of the moment, but a calculated dismantling of our shared future. Armed with legal advice and a comprehensive record of his unauthorized transactions, I started to chart a course for recovery. I gathered all the bank statements, emails, and even text threads that painted a complete picture of his betrayal. Each piece of evidence was a brick in the wall I was building, one that would shield me from his attempts to leave me destitute. But this wasn't just about legal battles. It was about reclaiming my identity, my independence, and the dreams I'd once nurtured. I began reaching out to close friends and family, leaning on their support to steady my resolve. Their words of encouragement became the fuel that drove me to take decisive action. I set up meetings with financial advisors to understand how to safeguard my assets and ensure that I could rebuild my financial future from scratch. Every step was methodical, every decision calculated. I wasn't going to let him dictate my future any longer. With each phone call, every meeting, and every late-night review of documents, a quiet confidence began to replace the sting of betrayal. I realized that while he had emptied our joint account, He had inadvertently filled me with a newfound determination. I was no longer the passive partner who trusted implicitly. I was a woman on a mission, ready to fight for every penny and every promise that belonged to me. That night, as I closed my laptop after another long session of planning, I felt a sense of resolve I hadn't known before. His callous act had triggered something powerful within me, a resolve to not only secure justice but to rebuild my life on my own terms. I wasn't just turning my pain into paperwork and legal claims. I was converting it into a stepping stone toward a future where I held the reins again.